What's going on, y'all? Born for Sports. We are 4 days away from Giants training camp. And man, I'm excited. I can't wait. But before I get to that, just reacting to the Saquon Barkley news. I gave it a few days to kind of wait for the facts to come out and everything. So, as we all know, there was no agreement made at that franchise tag deadline to get Saquon Barkley signed and locked up long term for the New York Giants. And honestly, I look at this situation as both sides are not wrong for the stance they took. It's just very, very, very unfortunate that they couldn't come to an agreement because of basically pride and feelings. That's really what happened here. You know, the timeline starts during the regular season, you know, when the Giants offered Saquon and his camp a deal that was worth, they reported 13 or 14 million a year, you know, and wasn't sure about the guaranteed money. Those numbers never came out that I'm not aware of. But, you know, basically it was a higher offer than what they offer now. You know, they declined it. They bet on themselves, you know, and no one knew that the running back market was going to crash the way it has crashed in the off season, the way it is, you know. So then came the timeline, what happened when Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley were both free agents, and they got Saquon. They basically got Daniel Jones signed, and then they couldn't come to an agreement with Saquon again before that deadline happened, and they signed Daniel Jones long term and tagged Saquon. Never in my wildest dreams, I don't think any of us thought, basically, that it would be where it's at now. We all thought it was a matter of time before Saquon and them Giants would come to a deal. Both sides want the deal to work, but you know, the Giants are not wrong in this situation, and Saquon's not wrong in this situation. I'm going to tell you why. The Giants are not wrong because they're not going to be the only team to overpay, or I should say overpay on this market for a running back when no one else is. You know, you can't fault the Giants for that. You know, no one around the league is paying running backs any Christian McCaffrey money or Alvin Kamara money. They're not doing it out there, you know, and it's not the Giants' fault. And I don't think they should be held accountable to do that, you know. In this league, it's a passing league, you know. Every few 15 years or whatever, the NFL starts to adapt to a new trend. And the new trend is it's a passing league. Positional value matters in rules in free agency and drafting. You know, you got in the offense, it's about the quarterback, the wide receiver, you know, and the O-line. That's what it's about. They don't want to pay running backs because it's just not, you know, it's not sufficient to do that in the salary cap era. You know, their playing career doesn't last as long as those guys. It's a passing league. You got to have the quarterback and the wide receiver. That's what it comes down to. So the Giants are not wrong for that. Now, for years, we've all said, you know, oh, man, the Giants they're always late to adapt to modern day football. You know, I go back to, you know, back in the 80s and 90s when the Giants were basically all about defense and running the ball. Defense and running the ball, you know, not strong quarterback play, whatever. Okay, they adapted. They started getting a modern day offense. You know, they hired Jim Fossil and they took off from there and won a couple of Super Bowls down the road with Coughlin. You know, they were a little late joining the party then. So we can't, after surviving Dave Gettleman and all of that, we can't fault the Giants for certainly adapting to modern day times. They've been a bad franchise for about 5, 6, 7 years now. You know, and they finally have a modern day GM and coach who know what they're doing and are going to build this team the right way. So that's that. That's the way I feel about what the Giants do. I'm not mad at them. I'm a Barkley fan. I'm a Giant fan first, but I'm a Barkley guy, and I want him here. But I can't fault the Giants from taking that direction. Secondly, on Saquon's end, he's not wrong either. He's not wrong either on his end. This is why this really sucks, because both ends are not wrong. Saquon has been a class act. He's been a leader for this team. He's been a consummate pro for the Giants. He got hurt a couple of years. That's been his only downfall. And it's not his fault that Dave Gettleman took him second overall. I'm not going to be one of those Giant fans that got amnesia and forget that, oh, we wanted the Giants. A lot of us wanted the Giants to take Saquon Barkley in that draft. You know, there was a percentage that didn't. No lie. I know a lot of them. But I know a lot that were just like me that wanted Saquon. We wanted to run this thing back with Eli and try to get that last run with him. You know, and since he's been here, he won a Rookie of the Year that year. And you know what? He's been a good Giant. He's been a good Giant. One of the most talented running backs I've ever seen walk through the door on that team. You know, and he's been a leader. He doesn't get into trouble off the field. You never hear anything bad about him. He's gone out there, do his job. You know, he had a couple of years he got hurt, and he's played on some bad teams, but that is not his fault. And a lot of Giant fans resent him for that, but there is a percentage, I won't say a lot, but there is a percentage that I see online all the time that get on him, that don't like him and all that, even over the years, like it was his fault that he got taken second overall. That wasn't his decision to do that, you know? So, you know, he's been a consummate pro. You know, he's been, I mean, his athleticism, his running style has been in question a little bit because, you know, sometimes he looks for the home run a la Barry Sanders. But other than that, he's been a good back. He's been good, you know, and there's no doubting it in my mind that he is a top 5, top 6 back in the league right now. Okay. So without him last year, we don't get to the play. We don't even sniff the playoffs. And I give a lot of credit to Brian Dable, you know, because he was coaching brilliant with the way him and the coaching staff with Wink and Kafka. But, man, Saquon was the guy that teams that played the Giants stood up all night trying to game plan for. And even though those numbers went down in the second half, some of it was due he was banged up, and some of it was because he was let's face it, he was the only legit threat on the team, okay, at the skill positions that teams feared to stop. The book was basically stop Saquon, you got a chance to beat the Giants, okay? So, yeah, he did his thing. He played very well, and when the big games came up, he came up big. So he is deserving of a fair contract, okay? But, again, the problem is his camp and him turned that contract offer down from the Giants during the season, and it came back to roost on him because, listen, man, this market's different. You got Dalvin Cook out there. You got Jacobs not without a signing. You know, he's out there. He was the rushing leader this year. You know, it's just the way the NFL is turning into, man. It sucks. Running backs are being undervalued, but it is what it is. All right, so listen, I'm just basically at this point hoping that let me just say, I do not believe for 1 minute in this market that these running backs, Saquon Barkley, Jacobs, all these guys are just going to just say, you know what, I'm not playing this year and pull a Le'Veon Bell. Yeah, how did that work out? That's not happening. I believe that they will be there week 1 and Saquon Barkley will be ready week 1. Now, I also believe this is the beginning, and I've actually, people that know me off this will tell you I said this. I don't think that Saquon Barkley will last more than 2 years here left. His Giant career will not be finished here in his career. He'll be playing somewhere else, most likely after the season. But that's a story for another time. We're trying to get to the regular season, and so let's see what happens on that. As you can see, I just saw earlier that the Giants made a couple of moves before camp. You know, I look at these moves like not really a big deal, but might be down the road. Those type of things. I don't think these guys are going to be guys that'll make the team necessarily unless it's some kind of catastrophic injury or, you know, some players just don't play at all good during the camp. So, you know, number 1, James Robinson. Played for the Jets last year, more known for being an undrafted running back and having a couple of really good seasons for the Jaguars. You know, they signed him yesterday. You know, I look at him as a depth signing, possibly, maybe could make the team. But we all know this is about sending a message to Saquon's camp that, hey, you know, we're not going to wait for you. If you really want to stay out there, you're going to have to make moves and look for an alternative. I think the main back in this situation on the depth chart without Saquon is Gray. He's the guy that I'm looking at to say, okay, him and Breida really. because Breida was here last year. But I'm more so Eric Gray out of Oklahoma, that to see how he looks in camp and can he handle Dable's playbook and responsibilities in this offense. So James Robinson, basically a depth signing. I wouldn't expect him to make the team. We'll see. Not a scrub. He can play. He's not a bad player. When he's right, he's not a bad player. I think he blew his Achilles out 2 years ago. Last year was his first full season back. So, maybe he'll have that burst back most likely. So we'll see. The Giants are going to take a look at him and see what happens. Now, Cole Beasley is an interesting one for me because, to me, I don't think he's really going to be a big part of this team going forward unless it's an injury. But it's a possibility that he might be somebody that can fill the bill if, one, Wan'Dale Robinson is not ready, which I have a feeling they've already decided on this, that they're going to put him on the PUP list to start the season. They're probably not going to rush that kid. They'll give him some time, because he did hurt that he did sustain that injury kind of like mid-season. So, we'll see what happens there. I think he's going to start the season on the PUP list. So maybe that'll be Beasley's way in onto the roster. Possibly. We'll see. Giants have a lot of slot receivers, man, and Beasley plays a slot. He's an older player. I don't think he's the same player he was 2-3 years ago, but, he knows Dable's offense, and we all know how, this regime, they favor teams and players that they had on Team Buffalo when they were there. So, we'll see what happens. Dable's comfortable with him. They'll take a look at him in camp. Also, this also talks about the availability of Sterling Shepard, who personally I'm not really counting too much on this season. I think his leadership in the locker room is why he's really on the team. I think he can play when he's healthy, but the problem is he's never healthy. Unfortunately, Sterling's never healthy. So, let's hope he is healthy. From our lips to God's ears, he is healthy this year. So, also, maybe the Giants might feel like they want to put him on the PUP list as well to start the season. I think they'll definitely do it to start camp, but most likely the way Sterling is with his leadership and, how hard he works and stuff like that, and how early he did sustain his injury, more earlier so than Wan'Dale Robinson. Most likely, they'll probably have him suited up week 1, but probably start the preseason on PUP. So we'll see what happens there. So all in all, 4 days away, Giant news happening right now. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited for camp, man. I'm excited for football season to get started, and hopefully, we'll be seeing some positive stuff in training camp, and we'll see what happens, man. All right, Born for Sports. Let's go Giants.